The Duke of Delusion has tried to put a smile on his face as he leaves Chatham House and new footage with a thumbs up. With a thumbs up to try and suggest that everything is okay. When we know it is far from okay, because this £50 million defeat shatters his reputation, proves that he lied in court, dragged a whole other major group of celebrities into his pathetic game and achieved nothing apart from wasting tens of millions of pounds. But this verdict has actually meant that another scandal has flown slightly under the radar. So we're going to start with this. Nicole Lampert, ironically a top journalist for the Daily Mail, revealing, as if Prince Harry's visit home to the UK wasn't controversial enough, his first visit was to support photographer friend Missan Harriman. Harriman recently announced he was standing down as chair of the Setback Centre after controversy over alleged anti-Semitism and putting his politics front and centre. Harry was a star guest at the premiere of a hagiography about Harriman. And there is, sure enough, a whole load of pictures of Harry at this highly controversial film, Shoot the People. Now, Harriman is not a good guy, but the other issue for the royal family is that he is a guy on the hard left. And it proves why King Charles was absolutely right to lock Prince Harry out of Buckingham Palace for this visit. Because at the first night in Britain, when he was meant to be staying at Buckingham Palace, he attended the Setback Centre to see this film with Harriman wearing an anti-apartheid t-shirt. More on that shortly. But just a little bit of background on Harriman, because it's very important. Last month, he announced that he would step down from his role after becoming embroiled in controversy over remarks.
Prince Harry is once again at the center of headlines after a significant legal defeat in his long-running battle involving the publisher of the Daily Mail. The ruling marks another important chapter in his campaign against sections of the British media, a campaign that has defined much of his public life since stepping away from royal duties. Shortly after the decision, photographers captured Prince Harry leaving Chatham House in London. As he walked past waiting cameras, he briefly acknowledged them with a thumbs up before continuing on his way. The moment quickly spread across social media, with supporters interpreting the gesture as a sign of resilience, while critics argued it contrasted sharply with the disappointing outcome of the case. The courtroom decision has reignited debate over Harry's legal strategy, one that has involved multiple lawsuits against media organizations over the past several years. Throughout that time, he has consistently argued that certain parts of the British press have crossed ethical and legal boundaries, particularly regarding privacy and information gathering. This latest ruling, however, represents a setback for those efforts. While legal defeats do not necessarily determine the broader issues being debated, they can influence public perception. For many observers, the outcome raises fresh questions about whether the extensive time, financial resources, and public attention devoted to these cases have produced the results Harry hoped to achieve. The case attracted widespread interest because it involved several well-known public figures who brought similar claims. High-profile lawsuits naturally draw enormous media coverage, and every hearing, filing, and court decision has been closely analyzed by legal experts, journalists, and royal commentators alike. For Prince Harry, the legal battles have always been about more than individual cases. Since leaving royal life, he has repeatedly spoken about his desire to challenge media practices that he believes have harmed both him and his family. He has often connected these concerns to his childhood experiences and the intense media attention surrounding Princess Diana. Critics, however, argue that frequent legal action keeps him in the headlines and extends the very public attention he has said he
made online that were reported by The Telegraph. These included a claim that news outlets had omitted a Muslim victim from coverage of attacks in Golders Green. Harriman had also come under fire for reposting a claim that Donald Trump's daughter Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner, who are Jewish, were selling off the Albanian coastline to Jewish billionaires and an Israeli military project. In May, he was accused of comparing Reform UK's local election success with the Holocaust. Harriman's photography took off while covering the Black Lives Matter protests that erupted in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, and he has been friends with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex since, including photographing the couple for announcements during the COVID pandemic when they revealed to the world that they were expecting their daughter Lilibet. And Tom Sykes of The Royalist, who is not a big political guy, has revealed why it is terrible that this was the first image that Prince Harry decided to release to the world of him having arrived back home in this storm of controversy. Because he said that this T-shirt, right, for the anti-apartheid club is not an organization. It is a slogan of the pro-Palestinian solidarity movement and has become a staple of Palestinian-themed clothing brands, which, of course, have been marketed with taglines like "From South Africa to Palestine, we shall be free." And we know that that is a direct take on "From the River to the Sea." For Harriman, one of the most image-literate activists in Britain, to dress for the biggest photo call of the year in an anti-Israeli T-shirt is completely consistent with his brand. But for Harry, the author of a recent essay on the dangerous conflation of anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Jewish hatred, to stand beside him for pictures while he is wearing that is a special kind of stupid. Harriman took a black and white photograph of Harry and a pregnant Meghan, announcing they were expecting Lily, and has functioned as a de facto official photography for the country ever since. But the optics of doing so publicly while he is wearing that T-shirt after all of the chaos in recent days is, to put it mildly, crazy. All of this information about Harriman is in the public domain, yet Harry still decided this should be the first public appearance of the week. And a reminder that in May, Harry published a piece in the New Statesman warning of a deeply troubling rise in anti-Semitism in Britain, arguing that British Jewish families were being made to feel unsafe in the country they call home, and cautioning that anguish over the devastation in Gaza and the wider Middle East was being dangerously conflated with prejudice against Jews. It read as complimentary to his father's own visible outreach to Jewish communities. So this guy, Prince Harry, right, is just a disaster. He's a total embarrassment. And this verdict, Neil and Christine Hamilton, I believe, should see him thrust out of the royal family officially. I think he should lose his title. I think his reputation has been shattered. I think after warning, he ended up perjuring himself in court. And Harry is just increasingly, Christine, becoming a huge embarrassment to King Charles, who I think was right to lock up Buckingham Palace and say, "You're not coming anywhere near at this time, sunshine." But I think he needs to say that that is going to be permanent, Christine, don't you?
Well, you've got King Charles is a father who's, in inverted commas, lost his son and can't see his grandchildren, all that sort of thing. So you've got to feel sympathy for that. But honestly, Harry should have been stripped of God knows what ages ago. His behaviour has been absolutely appalling. He doesn't care. He clearly doesn't. He pretends to, but he doesn't care much for his father's feelings and the rest of his family. And William, of course, has taken a very firm stand on this. But that photo call, I didn't know about that, so I've just learnt it now from you. Unbelievably stupid. We all know that he's the dumbest member of the royal family, but how could... Surely he's got people advising him. Surely people could say, hang on a minute, you're in trouble anyway. You're probably about to lose this case against the Mail tomorrow, today, but this was, for goodness sake, go to a wimpy bar or something. Don't go to that highly controversial and be photographed with that highly controversial man. He's lost his marbles. I love that phrase, bat, guano, crazy. I must remember that.
He has, hasn't he, Neil? He's just lost it. And unfortunately, Neil, and I do understand what Christine is saying, we of course have to remember that King Charles is a man with terminal cancer, and he's trying to forge some type of relationship with his two grandchildren, who at this point will have no recollection of ever having met their granddad, who is king. That is obviously deeply sad. But I'm sorry, Neil, sometimes royals have to make tough calls. And sometimes they have to put the institution and the country ahead of their own personal relationships. We saw it with the late Queen Elizabeth II. Do you remember when she stripped Andrew, Mountbatten Windsor, of all of his titles? And that was a devastating decision for her. He was her favourite son, believe it or not. He was. So I just feel Charles has to do the right thing now. And it can't. There can't be a next time. This court case is just so damaging, Neil. He lied in court. You know, it just can't go on. He's got to be off the royal website. There has to be some type of ending now, because it feels like Harry just gets worse and more manipulative, Neil, and also critically more political. You know, he is leaning into what I would describe as the nutty hard left in America, and that is dangerous. It's a danger.
Who wants to reduce. They suggest that each new lawsuit becomes another major news event, inviting even more scrutiny of his personal life. Supporters see the issue differently. They argue that pursuing legal action is one of the few ways public figures can challenge media organizations when they believe standards have been breached. From that perspective, success is measured not only by courtroom victories, but also by encouraging broader conversations about privacy, accountability, and responsible journalism. Regardless of where public opinion falls, the latest ruling is undeniably significant. Court decisions often shape future legal strategies, and they can influence whether similar claims are pursued going forward. Legal experts will likely spend weeks analyzing the judgment and discussing its implications. Another factor attracting attention is the financial impact of lengthy litigation. High-profile legal cases can become extremely expensive, especially when they extend over several years. Beyond legal fees, there is also the less tangible cost of prolonged public scrutiny. Every court appearance generates another wave of headlines, commentary, and debate. For Prince Harry, maintaining a consistent public image has become increasingly challenging. Since relocating to California with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, he has balanced multiple roles as an author, speaker, producer, charity advocate, and public figure. Each legal development inevitably becomes part of the broader narrative surrounding his post-royal life. Public reaction to the latest news has been deeply divided. Some believe the ruling weakens Harry's position and raises questions about his legal approach. Others argue that setbacks are an unavoidable part of pursuing.
I do feel very sorry for the king. Because Harry is the prodigal son, but he's returned far too early. In fact, he should never return, in my view, given his appalling behaviour towards his own family. And it's utterly disgraceful that he is denying his children the opportunity to get to know their grandfather. I think that in family terms, it is a most cruel way for Harry to behave. We know that his principal PR advisor, of course, is the Duchess of Darkness, with whom he lives, and she'll be ramping it up behind the scenes.
Oh, and what a great job she's doing, Neil.
Exactly, quite right. And he can't see a cowpat with wanting to step in it or indeed to jump into it. This is the tragedy. He is an absolute ocean-going 10-watt bulb, isn't he? And he just doesn't have the common sense, let alone intelligence, to see where his best interests lie. And this serial litigation that he's entered into, I'm on his side to an extent. Nobody in their right mind supports phone hacking and things like that. And
no,
we've been the victims of it ourselves, and actually we've taken money from Rupert Murdoch as a consequence.
It was appalling. It was disgusting, but it wasn't being done against him at the Mail. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
And he allowed David Sherborne, the slippery lawyer, to just convince him of a conspiracy that, remember, it's just important to point out, this was driven by criminals, criminal phone hackers and investigators and everything involved in Byline Times and hacked off, Max Mosley's money, Hugh Grant's campaigning. And he convinced himself via David Sherborne that all of this had happened to him. It had never happened. It was a fantasy. But before we come to that, I do just, you've raised the point of the children. And Christine, there's something really horrible that is going on with the children, because, Buckingham Palace now just accepts as fact that Prince Harry is emotionally trying to blackmail King Charles. But actually, this new report from the Daily Mail made me believe that there's also some weird sort of manipulation going on with Harry and Meghan and the children. And just hear me out, because you've got to listen to the friends that the Daily Mail is quoting to sort of really understand why what they're doing with the children, I think, is pretty twisted. So this is a source close to Prince Harry telling the Daily Mail, Harry is really, really keen to bring the kids. He wants to ground them in the UK in their heritage and their family heritage. They need to see their grandfather and they need to understand more about where they come from. Their lack of knowledge of the UK is becoming apparent, along with their lack of connection to it. And absolutely, like, that's terrible. And that's something that Harry and Meghan have created. The problem is that the children are just so excited about this visit. So here's where it gets really twisted. They were told already some time ago that they are coming, and they are beside themselves with excitement. They have been hopping up and down about coming here. They are really excited about the trip. They have been talking about it for months. Harry and Meghan have been telling them about the UK. Harry doesn't want to disappoint them. There's nothing from him to say either way at the moment for sure, but the feeling I get is that he will find a way to make it happen for them, the children, in a way that everyone is happy with. He will try to be the bigger person and bring them anyway. Now, I'm sorry, Christine, you don't play those games with young children.
No.
You don't tell them that you're bringing them to finally introduce them to these relatives who have been completely shut off from them as they live in some type of weird Montecito prison, and then take that away from them because you're unhappy about security, which you were never going to receive. So I put it to you, Christine, that I don't think Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are just playing emotional manipulation with King Charles. I actually think they're doing it with their own children, and I think that's particularly twisted.
Complex legal claims, and that one unfavorable decision does not erase the broader issues he has sought to highlight. Social media has reflected those contrasting opinions. Supporters have praised his determination to continue speaking out about privacy concerns, while critics have questioned whether continued litigation remains the most effective strategy. As is often the case with stories involving the royal family, reactions have been shaped as much by existing opinions as by the court ruling itself. Meanwhile, royal commentators continue to debate what this means for Harry's relationship with the monarchy. Although the lawsuit itself is separate from royal affairs, every major development involving the Duke of Sussex tends to generate renewed discussion about his place within the royal family and the path he has chosen since stepping back from official duties. Whether this legal setback changes that path remains to be seen. Harry has demonstrated in the past that he is willing to continue pursuing cases he believes are important, even when they're
I honestly do.
Absolutely. If that is true, that the children were told some time ago that they're going to meet their grandfather, who happens to be king, and they'll have seen photographs of him and they'll be really excited about that. If they were told all that, and then suddenly, because of Harry and Meghan's appalling manipulation of the situation, it's all about them, isn't it? But if they have brought their children into it in this way, I would have hoped that they hadn't told the children that they might be going to England until they knew definitely that they were going to. I mean, he is a thicko, but I think he's actually a thoroughly nasty person, frankly. I mean, the way he turned on the royal family in his book, whatever it was called, Spare Part or something.
It should have been called that.
Well, it should. Spare, there we are, Spare. I knew I was half right. It is absolutely appalling. And I have to say, I think it's frightfully funny that he was shut out of Buckingham Palace. I mean, I know it's undergoing renovation, but I mean, how many bedrooms must they have there? He was told, no, you can't come. Well, we've all had to suddenly make up a bed for somebody who's arrived unexpectedly. So the idea
Sometimes me at your house.
Well, there you go. You know, the idea that wasn't possible, it was just so transparent. But
Yeah.
I just think I think she in particular is a thoroughly nasty piece of work.
Well,
And
they're
using
trying
her
to...
children-
Oh, sorry, Christine. Finish it.
Well,
Yep.
it's finished.
Well, they're trying to sort of paint this picture now, though, of him being a great father. Harry, this is, because the source went on to tell the Daily Mail, everything Harry does now is as a father, not as a prince. He wants his children to know his own father. He wants them to spend a period with him and the family. That will mean a number of days in private. Yes, the visit is about Invictus, but for months now, it has also been about the children. They are the big motivating factor for the visit. And again, Christine, I just think Are you on something? Answer, yes. You know, we know that he's on legal drugs, Christine. I point out legal drugs, you know, legal psychedelics, legal marijuana, that type of thing. It's legal in California now. But you'd have to be, wouldn't you, to think that the royal family are going to allow in such toxicity and also such drama, Christine. I mean, let's just take a look, by the way, while we're discussing this, at Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and King Charles this week, who have just valiantly pressed on with their duties, you know, the real work of the royal family. This was Catherine at the Evelina Children's Hospital. King Charles has been at the Tank Museum, and they are just so desperate to avoid the constant drama that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle bring into their lives.
All I can say is thank God, and I really mean that William is the older son, and he is going to be the king one day, and not this stupid, footloose idiot. I know. Well, they are. I mean, Catherine, as far as I can see, has never put a foot wrong. I mean, just simply never. She just gets on with it. She's going to be a fantastic queen. How she to be a fly on the wall in the looking in on the conversations between Catherine and William. I mean, if I was Catherine, I would be absolutely livid. I'd be throwing things around and goodness knows what about your ghastly, evil brother. She's very composed in public, but I should think she's let rip in private. I hope she's let rip in private. Oh, gosh, look at that woman, Meghan. Oh.
Breaking right now, Christine, we have just received Prince
criticism. At the same time, repeated courtroom defeats could encourage a reassessment of future legal priorities. The coming weeks may provide greater clarity as legal analysts examine the ruling in detail, and any decisions about possible next steps become public. Until then, the discussion is likely to remain focused not only on the legal outcome itself, but also on its broader impact on Harry's public standing. One thing is certain: stories involving Prince Harry continue to generate worldwide interest. Every appearance, every legal filing, and every public statement is closely watched by audiences across the globe. This latest chapter is unlikely to be the final one in the. Only time will tell how this ruling fits into the larger picture of Prince Harry's campaign for media accountability and how it influences both his future legal decisions and his public image. As with many high-profile cases, today's headlines may shape tomorrow's strategy. What do you think about this latest court ruling? Does it represent a significant turning point in Prince Harry's legal campaign? Or is it simply one chapter in a much longer story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this update and want more in-depth coverage of royal news, legal developments, and the biggest stories making headlines, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next report. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.